Welcome back, all my 40K fanatics out there. I'm DJ here with Tim's Nation. Today, I just want to talk. That's really it. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've gotten on here and just talked about something that wasn't the list I was currently working on, or battle reports and doing all that stuff. And it's been busy, and I appreciate, all you guys, all the supports, all the kind words. It's been a very difficult last few months. The weather, kids getting sick all the time, myself, just a lot going on. So I do appreciate everyone's support. Thank you guys for sticking with us. And as things start to warm up outside, as we start to defrost, and hopefully tomorrow is a warm day as the recording of this video, we get ready to head out and travel to other locations to stay inside all day and play the glorious game of Warhammer 40K. Yes, we wait for it to get warm outside so it's more convenient to travel. I personally hate traveling in the winter. Committing to travel in the winter. So I should say, because you're going to go on a long drive, and then out here in Ohio, you get hit with a blizzard, and suddenly the roads are terrible, and you're like, well, okay, I just spent all this money, I got a hotel, what do I do? And for me, I don't want to drive in that at all. So I definitely enjoy this time of year to be able to travel more. It's a lot more fun, a lot easier to get some work done, to get some modeling and some painting done, to get some stuff primed. Yes, I know I'm falling terribly behind with some painting. I've been doing some commission work and getting that caught up, and just definitely falling behind in that. So I've been really pushing myself to go on there. None of that has to do with the fact of me facing ridicule from a 3-year-old. Literally, my 3-year-old was helping me put away some stuff, a bunch of sprues and stuff, and just organize some Warhammer. And we were squishing down the boxes to get rid of extra boxes. And he picks up the one, and it's the Biovore box. And he looks at it, and he goes, this, you got this? And I was like, yeah, I do got that one, buddy. And I went over, reached on the shelf, picked it up, and I showed him the model. I'm like, yeah, it's this guy right here. He looks at it, he's like, oh, this. And then he stops and gives it a scowl, and then looks at the box and goes, no, this. And, I know exactly what he meant. No, Dad, you don't have this. This is painted. That's not painted. This is painted. So yeah, I'm getting ridicule from a 3-year-old now. I'm working on it. I got models upstairs. I'm getting some Grey Knights ready, potentially taking them to a GT. Like I've said before in a couple of videos, I've kind of glazed on this a bit. I'm looking at Necrons and Grey Knights. A lot of it is because of where I have the models along, and also my Grey Knight display board I absolutely love. But it's a matter of these two. Grey Knights I've been very comfortable with. I have a lot of time to practice them if I'm going to go into that route before the GT. So right now I'm messing with Necrons and seeing what I can come up with. Secondaries have been a tough part for me with the Necrons and the Canoptic Court in the previous. So trying to kind of break the mold, get out of my I love spiders, I'm going to run 6 spiders realm, and just run more towards a competitive build in the competition. And if you guys seen in the recent video, it went very well into Votan. Got a 92 out of that, very high score, much better in the scoring department. Still had a good damage output out of that. So I'm looking forward to the next challenge and seeing how that goes. A lot of my stuff is cheaper. I'm able to spread out across the board more, and I can present units towards more elite armies to make them have to come out and destroy these things with their elite units, which then allow me to answer back and kind of hide things. It's got a really strong fire base. Silent King and 3 Doomstalkers is nothing to slouch at. Even though I get the reroll hits, the King giving reroll 1s, and then switching over into a fight boost with the Wraiths to get them moving up in combat, or ignore modifiers in situations with Death Guard, I really like. And just overall, the King's presence is pretty powerful. And then some other aspects to heal them and fix them up, just, as we see across the Necron army. Canoptic Reanimators are ridiculously durable for what they are. They just are. They're silly durable. And if you run them out of Hypercrypt, you can spend a command point, give it a 4-up invuln with a 4-up Feel No Pain. They're super, super durable. I love the things. And while they don't provide very much to the reanimation composition of the army, they can do that. But they just exist in this realm of, if you don't destroy them, they go back to full health and they continue completing secondaries. So I really like them out of this list. I like giving them a try, given the scene how this happens. And we're going to have to see some stuff moving forward. I got to run into some different lists, some different armies, maybe get some combat in there, get some different shooting in there. Of course, Marines, because Marines are all over the place. So yeah, it's going to be fun to kind of run those guys in the next couple weeks. But aside from that, as we're looking forward into the future, not just for the list that Lane and I are going to be practicing on the channel, it also comes into what is going to be the future of 40K here in the near coming up, and kind of talk about that and look at some predictions for what we're going to see based on the trends and what we've seen going on so far. So I'm not going to touch on, I'm probably going to miss a couple of things here. We're going to touch on based on as much as I can from these different things, because there's been a lot of like rumors of like, oh, this is leaked, oh, this is that. I'm going to try to keep it to what I really feel comfortable around and comfortable with that we've seen, and then just go from there. So number one, I'm going to start off with the armies. Let's talk about World Eaters. So World Eaters are on the precipice of seeing a codex here soon. This would be the first codex since like for a while, I believe. I don't remember if they had a 9th edition actual codex or they just had a detached. No, they had a codex, I believe. They think they had a codex there. But if not, it was a while. Like World Eaters is kind of one of the ones that gets missed for a while. Death Guard and Zench moved to the forefront and they really got their books, and Chaos has always been around. But Khorne's one that kind of always just was very lackluster. Even in previous iterations, they would do stuff. They would say, oh, here's a World Eaters Codex, but they'd go the route of not even doing a model line release. I remember the one that I'm thinking that was the oldest, which I could be wrong. I think there was a 9th edition book, but I wasn't playing with 9th. I didn't start them till 10th. The World Eaters had, they were codex that came out way back when, like 6th, maybe 7th edition. It was just a rehash of Chaos units with Berserkers thrown in there. So it was really, really lackluster. It was quick, as you would expect the World Eaters to be, but it lacked any real competitive play. In honesty, it's like as you started to dive down the rabbit hole of what it was good at, there was other armies that could do that better, cheaper, and with more units. So it just really fell into a bad place. Now World Eaters have actually seen some focus and some care. As we move into the Codex time, there's going to be a lot of questions. Number one, as we're seeing with the Slaanesh armies, the Emperor's Children, demons are being brought in. So we're going to be able to have access to the demons. Now the question is, how do we have access to these demons? Is it going to only be out of a specific detachment, or can we take the demons in the Codex as we were able to right now as allies? And for that same matter, is it going to fix the issue with allies? Right now, specifically, the Bloodletters as our battle line. The Bloodletters at battle line are too expensive to do nothing. It's really how I feel with it. You take them because you have to take a battle line. And I understand why they did this because of some other different ally combinations. Some armies, they get kind of hit with it. Honestly, World Eaters without taking those battle line do get kind of brutal with what you could end up taking, especially when a Bloodthirster exists there. And Bloodthirster Angron is something that I've often thought about. I've been wanting to get a Bloodthirster so bad because he's really cool. But yeah, there's some limitations with that stuff, especially with the demons. So I get it, and I can understand why. But it does limit you from doing other pretty cool things as well, such as like Flesh Hounds and any of the other demon aspects that you could possibly put in there, because they really don't do anything. And when you look at it and you spend the points on them, there's something you could take out of World Eaters that is equal point value, but gets something more that the detachment offers to them, overtaking the demon allies. There's really nothing they do. They can deep strike. Okay, there's other deep strike options. And on top of the fact that the army is very fast. And now that we have an infiltrator with the Goremongers coming out from the kill teams, going into the detachments and having those to infiltrate, we now have even more on the forward advance. So just having deep strike isn't quite good enough to cut it. So I'm not a big fan of how demons are now. I'm hoping that this means we're going to see more of an inclusion. They're going to be able to do more and interact more, maybe with the army rule, and then the detachment rule is for separate things. I'd love to see some Blood Crushers in there. I was very disappointed when we didn't get Blood Crushers, Khorne Berserker on Blood Crushers, and have the Juggernaut models. Very disappointed that we're only getting them as characters right now. It's like, why? Where's the squad? So if we're not going to get those, which doesn't seem like we are, then at least we get we can take the Juggernaut with the bloodletters on them, the blood crushers by name of Codex, and I would love that. I'd love to be able to use those things. Usually those things fall into one of two columns. Either they're really terrible and overcosted, or they're really, really good and can run through things. And I'll take the gamble on them being really good and running through things. They're a cool unit. They're an awesome looking unit. I'd love to be able to use them. As far as the new character is concerned, I don't feel like he's going to be anything that much. Now, if something's been released, go ahead. But again, I take some of the leaks with a grain of salt because we've seen wild accusations that have been completely wrong multiple times. Beginning of the edition, Necrons, all this stuff is going to change, and not a single piece of it got touched. So now, with the character that we're seeing, I don't think he's necessarily going to bring much to the squads, being Exalted or Standard 8-bound. What I think his role is going to be is he's going to be an enhancement monkey. He's going to be the character that you're able to put in the squad that he's going to do something. He's going to have something. Maybe he gives lethal hits if he's leading a squad, and he probably has some big, strong weapons that he hits regularly hard. But is he going to be some crazy, broken, oh my gosh, I need 3 of them character? No. He's going to be a nice addition to a squad. You may or may not take him, depending on how you're running. If you're running 3-mans or running 6-mans, it's going to basically probably depend on that too. And then when you take him, he's going to give you an enhancement that's going to make that squad even that much stronger. So I think that's kind of more his role, is to be the character that can give Exalted or 8-bound an enhancement as we get detachments that might focus more on such units. As far as other new releases, let's see. I want to make a guess on this one too, because if we're including demons, that allows us to cut down releases. So one big thing that I think we probably are going to see here soon, especially if we're seeing so much, is maybe a new Terminator kit. Chaos Terminators, it's been a while since we've seen a new sculpt. So by putting out a Chaos Terminator kit that has a sprue of Berserker heads, a sprue for 1,000 Suns, it could be a Chaos box of Terminators, and then you have a sprue for Undivided, a sprue for 1,000 Suns, a sprue for World Eaters. Obviously not a sprue for Death Guard, unless you separate the Death Shroud and the Blight Lord Terminators entirely and take the Blight Lords, I believe are the more standard Terminators, and put a sprue of bits in there with them as well. It gives a wide coverage. And going into the season of, going into basically Summer of Chaos is what we're looking at right now. It could be a possibility we see new Terminators. Other than that, it's tough to say because most of the other kits are pretty much newer. Since the World Eaters army itself is relatively new, and unless you tap into some stuff that they borrow from Chaos, and then to me that's more of like a Chaos release in that sense. Now a big thing is going to be what from Chaos is actually going to stick around. I think the Hellbrutes are still going to be there. I really don't think they're going to pull those out of there, and I think the Predators are going to be there. One thing I think that might not be around as much anymore might be the Helldrake. Helldrake doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense for World Eaters. I can understand the Hellbrute being how it's Forge Fiend. But yes, Hellbrute too, obviously, he'll be around still. But the Forge Fiend and the Hellbrute, both of which are kind of possessed or undead champions and stuff like that, those make sense. The Predators, yes, they're vehicles, yes, they're tank, yes, they're range. But you can't ignore the fact of the militia, the military aspect of it. So I think that those guys still have a center place, especially with the fact that Chaos still runs Predators in general. So I think that those will stick around. But a lot of the other stuff, like the Defiler, I think he may not be sticking around in there. I don't think he fits as much. And if you're bringing things in like Bloodthirster as option and other units that are going to be here in the Codex, I think there's things that could take those spots. Range is still the issue that the army will have. It's not meant for range, so I think that some options for range that might be around still would be things like the Forge Fiend, The Hellbrood, I say that very, 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 very loosely, and the Predators, both variants, or one variant that has different weapons. So, and the Land Raider, of course, the Land Raider. But Land Raider's got transport capacity. Land Raider can deliver guys up there. I've considered picking up a Land Raider for my World Eaters. I think that it might be a cool option to have the las cannons to be able to punch something and then dump them off. Wish that Chaos would get a different variant of the Land Raider instead of just having only one, but that hasn't happened. I don't see that happening anytime soon. So it's tough to say what they're going to actually do as new releases. My guess is that, or my wish list, I guess I'd say, would be to update the Terminator kit. Update the Terminator kit and get us ones that are a little bit bulkier, on par with Marines, and do stuff with that. I think that would be cool, and I would appreciate that because I haven't gone into my Terminators yet, and I've been patient with that one because I noticed that's a bit of an older kit. So yeah. Oh, and happy belated birthday to the Land Raider. Land Raider kit is now 25 years old. That was a model, that kit was released in 3rd edition. So that kit's been around for a while. Good job, Land Raider. You've stood the test of time. I don't know. Someone please let me know in the comment section if there is an older kit, but I think the Land Raider is the oldest kit we have right now that hasn't changed. It hasn't gone from pewter to plastic, or excuse me, fine cast resin. It hasn't changed sculpts. It's the same plastic hull that we've seen from 3rd edition till now, which at one point you could buy for $45, $50. Anyways, now it's like 110, I think, for a Land Raider. It's insane. So moving on, sticking with Chaos, we're going to go into Lane's choice of Chaos factions and the Death Guard. So Death Guard, it's going to be interesting. So getting the demons to move over makes me wonder if the demons themselves might get some upgrades in here. And this holds true for Khorne as well. So if they're moving the demons over, those demons haven't seen a lot of love for a while. And same for Khorne demons too. So there could be something to say about upgrading some of those kits, giving some new sculpts to them. On the contrary, though, a lot of the Nurgle kits look really good. A lot of those look very, very nice and are still holding up well. That it's kind of like, but why though, at that point? Otherwise, you have a very intricate line already with the Plague Marines and everything else that it almost feels like they need to add maybe a new unit. That might be a box that has 2 different unit types. And so that's something that could be very interesting. I think that the Death Guard have not seen a new unit in some time, so they definitely should. And my prediction is that this is going to be a time we're going to see a new unit. Now, the question is, what will it do? The Death Guard have shooting threats. They have range. They also pose very well in close combat, and they do a lot with aura effects. So what do we do with them? What unit do we give? What fills the void, and what makes, not even fills the void, but fits with the theme and everything like that? And I think, for me, it would be a dedicated mid-range shooting threat. Something like we see with Heavy Intercessors. Heavy Intercessors have the 3 wounds, almost like Chosen, I guess, as well, you could say. Chosen or Heavy Intercessors in some type of hybrid for Death Guard. Having a unit that is a 3-up save with a toughness 6 and 3 wounds that possesses some type of Plague Bolter that gets the Plague bonus because it's a Plague weapon of some sort and has that range and has that capability. I think that would be, that's my prediction of what I think would be the best fitting for the Death Guard, is to give them a new Marine sculpt on par with the Heavy Intercessors. So we'll see. Probably completely wrong, but that's my thing. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section, or maybe if you've seen something, it's like, hey, we've seen this coming up. But an army that is definitely, oh, and as far as like detachments are concerned, so we've seen kind of the direction that they want to go with Death Guard. I think we're going to see a Poxwalker detachment, and much like World Eaters, and we're seeing with Slaanesh, probably going to be a dedicated demon-based detachment. So you have a Nurgle-based detachment that you can kind of slap in some Marines. Hopefully, again, same deal, that they make taking demons easier and more efficient. Maybe the detachment rule they get from, but not, I'm sorry, the army rule, but not the detachment rule would be fine. But yeah, we still need to know what they're doing with the demon aspect for it. There will probably be a Poxwalker detachment. We can almost guarantee, hopefully. I really don't understand. If this doesn't, we don't get this, this makes no sense. A detachment that when you take it makes Poxwalker's battle line. And then it bases around Poxwalkers. I mean, they one time they were infantry. There's people who have 60 of them. There's people that have tons of them. And they've reduced it down to the fact that you basically can take what, like 30? Like 3 10-mans, maybe you're 20-mans, maybe you can take 60, but they don't do anything. You need to be able to flood the board. And then you need some enhancements and stratagems that support the Poxwalkers and let them do it. I think that would be an awesome one. One that's more vehicle based, maybe something that is more center focused around Mortarion being a monster and focusing on vehicles. It seems like there's a play style that people like with oh my gosh, the tank is aloof in my name. Someone's yelling it at me right now. The Plague Burst Crawler, PBC, and running him with Mortarion, usually give him the buffs, maybe steer into the skid. If people like that style of play, give a detachment that kind of says, hey, we're doing this vehicle monster based, and it makes these things stronger and better and more playable, not in the aspect of where they were in the past, where they were basically auto includes because they were just so devastating for the damage they could do that they get nerfed to be unplayable. So keep them meh, and then have a detachment that says, hey, here's where they're good. And then, of course, we're still going to have our generic one that we see out of the index, and they'll probably tweak that a little bit, maybe change up some of the staggered effects. I personally have no issue with how Death Guard plays and how Death Guard functions. But Games Workshop has kind of a graph or a grid of how they want their rules to play and intersect, and Death Guard doesn't fully fall. It seems like it doesn't fully fall into kind of how those things interact and affect. A big part of it is the fact that their weapons and their abilities tend to lower ballistic skill and weapon skill versus giving you -1 to hit. So, and that means you can inherently basically get -2 to hit, -1 to your weapon skill, plus -1 to hit. If you're hitting on 3s, their ability takes you to hitting on 4s, and then the -1 to hit, now you're hitting on 5s. So in some of the spirit, and I say that loosely, of 40K, I could see them shifting how Death Guard play. With that being said, I really hope they don't, because I think Death Guard plays very interesting. It's a very interesting army and how it plays. Now moving on, I don't have as much to say about this army because I don't see him as frequently, except when I play against our good buddy Nico. Thousand Suns. I'm so disappointed on that model kit. I know there's probably people who are really excited about that thing. The top half of it looks pretty cool. The legs look, they don't look plausible. They don't look like they look like a stiff wind will knock them over. I don't like that. I personally, and if I was going to run those, I probably would invest into, I probably would remove the legs and make them a quadrupod or whatever it's called. I'd give them 4 legs. I'd have them moving like that. You know, you have Scarab Occult Terminators, Rubric Marines. You have these guys with Pharaoh heads. Why not give them something Scarab? Like, yes, Necrons have the pyramids and everything else, but if you didn't want Thousand Suns to have any type of Egyptian look to them, then why do they have a Pharaoh headpiece that has stripes on it? I mean, it's right there. And I'm sure there's other things that people are going to like, oh, and what about this? And what about this? Yes, there's probably a bunch of things I'm missing. But you have that. And you've had a chance to change that. And you've went into the skid. Even with these models now, the new little walker robot things, I'm sorry, I can't remember the name, but they got the helmet. They're built that way. So you've already given this tell. Just give them 4 legs. Give them 4 legs, make them look like they can stand, make them look like they can move. And yeah, I just feel that way. Now, for me, I hated the Dread Knight model. I hated the Centurion model. I hated the Sisters of Battle Walker things that they came out with. And then when the model was built and presented in front of me, I really liked the sculpt. So I completely fell in love with Centurions. I fell in love with the Dread Knight sculpt. I love that. I just wish it had more flexibility and I didn't have to cut it to get that kind of movement into it. Not so stoic. And the sister one too. I love the sculpt. So maybe I'll change my mind when I see the actual model, but I just really doubt it because it doesn't make sense. It looks like it's going to fall over if a breeze hits it. That being said, we all know it's going to be amazing. It's going to be absolutely broken. And you're going to see 3 units of 6 on every tabletop near you on release or something close to it. We know it's going to be brutal. We know it's going to be vicious. We know it's going to be a staple with Thousand Suns when it hits because got to sell models. I mean, GW writes the book on what models are good. They do. And so I think that right out the gate, these guys are going to be great. They're going to be punishing, and we're going to be all needing to prepare for them when they get released. And for the Thousand Sun players, and if you're new to 40K, before you go running out and buying 18 of them on release, wait to see if an FAQ or errata hits, because I really would hate to see anyone go and spend that much money, time, and painting them just to have them nerfed, and maybe they're only taking a 6-man. You know, if you're a collector, yeah, grab a 6-man. You know, if they have a couple variants, okay, sure, do what you want to do. But if you're doing it for just solely competitive play, wait and make sure it doesn't get nerfed. Get some good dudes together, throw a couple proxies down, try them out, get a feel for what they could do on the table, wait it out, and make sure they don't get hit with a nerf like Orcs did. A little different with Orcs, but still, needless to say. As far as Thousand Suns are concerned, we've seen them already have a couple different forms and a couple different ways that they can play over the years. And I think it's just going to be a reinvestment to that. And I think a lot of what we see Thousand Suns do is going to be pretty much a telltale sign of what Grey Knights are going to do. Although Grey Knights pick up and teleport around the table, and Thousand Suns have the different detachment system, that's pretty much kind of where I see the spread happening. I think we're going to see a Terminator-based detachment, one that gives us a lot of strength behind Terminators. I think we'll see the Demon detachment that runs demons and puts everything else in there. You know, we'll have the current Psychic Hammer detachment that does just infinity mortal wounds from characters attached to squads. And yeah, I think it's tough to say. And then probably a detachment that's based around vehicles so that their new walkers have a home with a detachment that they utilize best. I think that on paper, Thousand Suns look, and this is my personal opinion, every time I look at Thousand Suns, I look at their codex and I look at their rules and stuff, on paper, they seem boring. But then when you actually invest and you take as many characters as some of the lists I faced do, you see a lot more flavor and a lot more flexibility. The army does really well with its characters and how they function. Yes, things like Rubric Marines and Scarab Occults do a ton of damage, but a lot of that damage comes from what the character's abilities and their powers and what they can do. So I do, you know, it's like on paper, Thousand Suns to me look boring. And then when you put them on the table, it's like, wow, that's a really cool army. I'd even consider playing it a couple of times. But there's so many Thousand Sun players that I know around me that I just need to get them to actually come and play. That World Eaters, there was lots of people who played it around me. So went with World Eaters. And also with one thing with Thousand Suns I don't like is, and this is kind of in that same limitation, model line. Their model line, very limiting. Not a big fan of the Zangor model. I think World Eaters look way cooler, way more epic. And I have my jump around Psychic army with my Grey Knights. I want to run and charge across the table and just smash things. ABC Warhammer, always be charging. Speaking of which, Grey Knights, we have seen a lot of whispers. They're going to be coming soon. We're going to be seeing Codex Grey Knights. We've seen some cover art for it. We know it's on its way. They've teased the new Dread Knight. So this new Dread Knight really bothers me, because if you look in last edition's Codex, there's an image of a Dread Knight. That Dread Knight has a sword upside down that it's holding. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's a conversion, it's a conversion. It wasn't a conversion. That was the kit. I feel like this has been around for a while. I feel like this upgrade sprue has been around, and they've just held out and not put it out there. Another thing to think for my logic here is, why have we not seen Assault Marine Terminators yet? We got new tactical Terminator kit. Where's the Assault Marine Terminators? Why? I think they're ready to go. They're just not for some reason. And I feel like this sprue is the same way. Nothing has changed with the Dread Knight kit. Everything that we see that's different is a sprue that's going to be included with the box when the price goes up and it comes out. So I'm glad that I have I got my 5. Maybe I'll pick one more up. I've actually considered picking one more up before this comes out, just so I can get my 6. So I have 3 regular, 3 Grandmaster in case that becomes a thing. But realistically, the new kit, there's nothing to it. I mean, you have the missiles that are on the chest plate that are very small. And I have a trillion bits that if those are really relevant and necessary, I can put those on there, or when we find out what they actually are, convert them and put them somewhere else on the model. Also, now, the weapon options. Weapon options are interesting. So number 1, we have the mace that we're looking at. Cool. And we have the flail. So I feel like those weapons are going to be good right off rip. I think we're going to have, now we have, the Thunder Hammer. Now we're going to have a flail, a mace, the Great Sword, and then we'll probably still have the Dread Fist. Hopefully they'll do something with the Dread Fist, but maybe not. Maybe that's going to be a way, and we're going to have a weapon. So what I'm personally thinking is that flail looks like that thing is going to break at the moment you transport it to a tournament. So for me, I'm totally fine with, if that thing's cool, I'm going to build a flail and use a real chain and put it in his hand and attach it down there. I think it'll look great. It will, because it'll be a real chain hanging, and I don't have to worry about it falling. Another thing is, with a lot of my Dread Knights that still do have the open hand, I only have 2 that are actually modeled with weapons in their hands. Those other ones, they still have the hole. I'll just make some weapons to put in there for these things if the mace and the flail are cool. So I'm good. I'm good on not having to purchase any more Dread Knights, because honestly, I know that those things are probably going to be some nasty, mean weapons, and their chest missiles are going to potentially matter too. So, yeah, Grandmaster might be stepping up in his viability in a sense. Who knows? Maybe we'll get Dread Knights in units, and then he can lead a Dread Knight unit, and we have an army of vehicles, and that's never going to happen. As far as updates on kits, give us a Grandmaster already. Give us a Grandmaster, brother. There is literally no model for this. The only thing you can do is go get a regular Terminator character, like a Space Marine Terminator character, which has a bolter in hand, not the wrist-mounted bolter, no hammer or halberd option, and otherwise you convert Boldus, convert Drago, or take a Terminator from your 5-man Terminator box set. Now you have 4 Terminators, which you can do nothing with, and 1 Grandmaster. I'm in that position with a couple of them. So I definitely, I really hope that that's going to change. Maybe we'll see a Grandmaster model. That'd be cool. Otherwise, I think that the Grandmaster kit's probably going to be one of the only ones we see. Maybe, just because it's been a while, they might sneak another infantry unit in there. Another, just something that bases off the current strike kit, I would think. And that gives us a little bit more upgrade. I don't think we're going to see anything for Terminators or Paladins. I don't. And I don't think we would even see much of a change to the Strike, Purifier, Interceptor, Purge box of everything. But we could see another sprue and another variant. Something else to give a little more flavor. Something like that falls into kind of like the Electro Priest of AdMech, where it's like a unit that's close range, a lot of psychic damage of some sort, with like, maybe even like a aggressor type thing, like how aggressors have those wrist mounted bolters, kind of like a hybrid in between there. That'd be cool. So maybe something that falls into with the strike kit. Hopeful. As far as detachments, still gonna have her up down. That's a staple. I'm predicting we will. I'm hoping we will. This Purifier detachment will probably make its way in with some tweaks. Our standard teleport strike will make its way in with some tweaks. I have a feeling that things like Mista Deimos are going to be gone. I feel like that's going to be one that, enjoy it while it lasts. I feel like Mista Deimos is probably going to leave or get changed as a counter move to not picking the unit up off the table. Who knows? We'll definitely see a Terminator detachment, because that's a big deal for us. And then we'll probably have the staple anti-demon detachment that you never take, because all it does is destroy demons. And then demons have rules that just say, okay, that's great, but no. I remember, like, you have Grey Knights destroy demons, but then back a couple editions ago, if a Grey Knight unit kills a demon unit, you can just bring the unit back at full strength. Deep strike it out of the table. You did nothing. You're the anti-demon army. You kill something, and you did nothing. Love it. Love it. So, what was it called? It was like something incursion, demonic incursion, I think, or something like that. So, that's what we're looking at for codexes that are coming up that we've seen. Trying to think if there was anyone that I forgot in that mix. I know there's been some whispers and stuff with Imperial Knights, Chaos Knights, things like that. We have Emperor's Children coming out. We've basically seen all of that. But and there's 3 Chaos, 1 Imperium. So there'll be other Imperium or Xenos that we might see in there. But for the most part, those are the ones that I'm watching more with a close eye. I like Thousand Sons. I like the way they look. Death Guard for Lane, obviously. And me, World Leaders. And then you have Grey Knights. I'm super excited about that book. But otherwise, everything else, I mean, Imperium-wise, we might see something get slid in there with a like a Space Marine book, maybe something for the Wolves. You know, some of those armies, some of those other chapters that are very, very predominant, getting kind of some of their own stuff. So the other thing, the big elephant in the rule is the new missions that we're going to be seeing. First of all, I'm glad that that weird corner triangle square thing is not going to be competitive. We're not going to see that thing at all. That's not. I saw the screenshot of that and immediately I just slapped my head. I was like, you got to be kidding me. That can't be. And then I see, I'm like, okay, that's not. Because we already have enough trouble when you have 2 tables on your left and right, and you're playing on a hammer and anvil style, and you're across your opponent. That's already enough struggle. We don't need to go and start measuring the triangles. And I mean, square is fine, but the weird triangle thing, no, I'm not doing that. I'm good on that. So we won't be seeing that. As far as everything else, what we will see. So my prediction is it's going to be after Leviathan was kind of a big shift. We shifted over into it's a shift and a fix. So it's hard to say what's going to go on. And when you look at how Leviathan changed to Pariah Nexus, we had these actions that could be completed with units that were eligible to shoot. So people would take assault weapons into units, be able to advance with them. You could also, and since they were still able to shoot because there was a singular assault gun, they could then complete an action. And then you had, what do you call it? OC0 units that were able to score and do actions as well too. So then when we move over to Pariah Nexus, they changed that. They brought the action system back. They defined what an action was and what units could do those actions. So did they change it for the sake of the game, or did they clean up and fix a rule that was intended? I'm more would say I'm on the belief that they changed a rule that wasn't effective, and then they tried some other stuff. Now, some of the secondaries and some of the missions and some of the deployments, I think, gotta go. They gotta go. They gotta go. They gotta go. Definitely, like the 2 weird Tetris piece deployments. I think those 2 got to get switched out. And they're messy to measure out. I know some people are probably like, "Oh no, it's no problem. It's just this. It's this." It's like I'd rather draw a line and put a couple dice down and have that line. I feel like that's too much. Where there's some deployments where it's like I can just go, okay, I know I'm not going to go that far. I'm here, and then that deployment means that you have to measure it out because you can't tuck all the way up to a building. You have to be like 2 or 3 inches off of it initially, and then you can move up to it. But legally, you have to be there. So that one, I think that's going to be a big one. Mission-wise, removing objective markers is kind of annoying, and placing new objective markers is kind of annoying too. I do like the aspect of it. I think the placing is a little more interesting. I think removing objective markers is really, really annoying because I guess you don't necessarily have to pick them up off the battlefield. You can put something on to say, okay, this one's gone. So theoretically you do that. But it's when you're actually picking them up and they're getting off the field. That's kind of annoying to have to move those things around. And in the spirit of the game, Games Workshop is saying that objective marker is removed. So I kind of hope that's kind of an area I feel like we could improve upon. Other than that, the rest of the missions are pretty cool, and I really like them. I like Terraform. I like how it plays. I like its style. Purge the Foe, still very brutal. I would only, what personally I would like to see is less second, less like, let's get wild with it. Let's get wild and move to a different direction and change the complete aspect of everything. Let's make home field objective markers really not as valuable. The home field objective marker should have a secondary purpose that you're holding. Maybe it's the fact that you may give the home field objective marker more value to your opponent than to you. So the reason that you're even on it and holding it is just so your opponent can't. Having that aspect means that the game is going to play more into the middle and people are going to try to be more progressive. At least I would feel they would in trying to hold those points because their home field objective marker is not going to score them anything. And at the same time too, it's going to be harder to zone out your backfield because you're not going to want to dedicate as much because it's not going to be as much value. So cheap small units for the early portion of the game that maybe can get away, things like Ophidians, things that can get off the table, have value in those lists and have that way. Granted, those units have had value already, but it's a different value now where they may stay on the table a little bit longer instead of spending 5 turns of the game, pick up, drop down, pick up, drop down over and over again, kind of delays them a bit in there. But in that, a lot of the missions, I feel like they're really good. Like I said, I would like to see is let's just get wild with it and change it. And this next edition, it's all about objectives outside of your deployment zone. That's what I would like to see. Let's play the game that way. Let's change it up a bit. Now, shooting armies, people are like, oh, but what about shooting armies? Shooting armies that don't move too much, Well, get some mobility in there, okay? That's it. Get some mobility in there. I mean, one of the tactics that Lame plays, which I always catch him and call him out on, but it's true and it's a very valuable strategy. An easy way to win at Warhammer is if your opponent doesn't have an army. So if you're a gunline army, shoot your opponent off the table and then just go wander onto objectives. Sounds valid to me. I can't beat you if I don't have any models. So and that's kind of where I feel like that falls into it, is like gunline armies can still do it. We see a lot more terrain on tables. There's a lot more mobility anyways. And it's not like a gunline army is just going to sit in its home field deployment zone, murder everything, and then move on. So I feel like that's for the missions. Now the mission, those for the primary missions. The secondary missions, I don't like those at all. For the most part, most of those have very little value and very little impact on the game overall. And the ones I'm specifically calling out are the ones that name battle line units. Games Workshop made an attempt to really put more value towards battle line units. Okay, in some ways it's effective, but mostly it didn't work. Unless you want to force us to take those units, unless there's a force organization chart, as we had before, where you had to take 2 troop units, you're not going to push anyone to take these troops mandatory and fill out their armies and have infantry on the field of that nature. Not always. At least like there's a lot of armies that just don't. Like my Canoptic Court right now, 0 battle line units in there. My Grey Knights, 1 battle line. There's not that many. We're not going to use them because we can just put value in there and have just value that's going to play the mission and play the game. And I like that a lot more. I like that more than having some kind of taking some trash units that really don't do anything and just let your opponent, good units, destroy everything. And I like that we have, I like the way that I just like in general, the way that it's put together now with the style and how you take units and can build your army. But if you really want us to go more into battle line, it's going to take more than that. Those pieces and parts of it really didn't do anything at all. Not at all. Now, would it be overkill to make some of the mission secondaries, the actual cards that we score for secondaries, score more points with battle line units? That's something that might be a possibility. Games Workshop obviously has showed their hand that they want us to run more battle line, want us to run more infantry without a force organization chart. We see this with the fact that the secret missions, as well as the whatever they're called, the secondary missions entirely. I don't remember the name. Sorry, the mission rule. Excuse me. we've seen that with the mission rule, that the mission rules are, there's a lot of them that are battle line unit focused. So if we're going to take, if they're already wanting us to go in the direction of battle line, I could see secondaries doing that as well. If a unit that's scoring this is battle line, score a +1 points. If one, like engage on all fronts, if one of the units is a battle line unit, no, maybe that would be a tough one, but behind enemy lines, score 4 on behind enemy lines. 3 for a unit, 4 for 2 units. If one of those units is battle line, +1 point. That could start to steer the direction, because now you're taking 40 points from your score and saying, hey, if you're going to run some battle line and can run some efficient battle line to do these things, now you can score extra on your secondary points. That favors some armies that have really good battle line and does kind of hurt some other ones that have lackluster. Grey Knights, for example. Expensive, not terrible, but you're not going to get some of the value that you would out of some other armies that can run smaller ones. I hope we don't go that route, but it is something to keep in the back of your mind. We could go into a heavier battle line front. Personally, I'd prefer on my wish list if we knocked out the battle line stuff. Like we get it with these battle line buffs for the missions are really not as impacting. I mean, there is times where it's like, oh wow, I can advance and complete actions. Oh wow, I can advance and shoot. And I was running Grey Knights with a 10-man Terminator brick, and that was very neat to be able to do that, and it definitely helped. I'm not gonna lie and say it didn't. But I just feel like it's either all or nothing. It's all or nothing. Either the battle line units have to be such a pivotal point of your army that you're taking them to score these points, or we're not doing this at all. And we can keep away with the force organization chart, but then these secondaries have to reflect that in some way that we're scoring them. And then, yeah, then battle line units will become something that we look at more because of scoring those points. I would hope we wouldn't go that direction, but realistically, that could realistically be the direction we go, especially with what we've seen from the secret missions and the mission rules from this last running. And then, like I said, with the actual cards, some of there were some that were taken out and tweaked to other things to be things that were a little bit easier to score and stuff like that. All in all, I think they did a good job with it. Recover assets, I don't like. I feel like that one, it really just a little too hard to do reliably over the course of the game even. And just, yes, there is that possibility of scoring 6 points, but it's one of those ones that it's like you really need to draw it too much at the right opportunity. And I feel like those are the secondary cards that need to kind of go away, is cards that you have to draw at the right opportunity. Now, I do like the fact that we shuffle some things back in if you draw them turn 1. I think, and I don't believe behind enemy lines is one, but I think that's one that definitely needs to be changed over so that if you draw behind enemy lines, that can, oh yeah, it is. Okay, it is one of the ones. But probably some more, like recover assets, I just feel like that one is just too much that you have to be like drawing it on the exact right turn to even score it, and even just for 3 points too, because the unit has to survive through your opponent's turn. Mark for Death is just, it's just kind of obnoxious. You know, in some ways it changes the way that armies play in a not the right way. I mean, especially like things like Grey Knights. Okay, I have 4 units on the table. You draw Mark for Death. Okay, you score 5 points. I have to pick up my units because I'm going to have to pick these up and drop back in. And once I take them off the table, you score 5 points on it. So I feel like that shouldn't, it completely works that way, but it shouldn't exist for that reason. There's got to be a different way around it to have a more targeted based kill a unit score point secondary. Bring it down is fine. I think they could even go a little bit lighter on it too. I think they could go, I don't know how you would go lighter on it, but I could see even go a little lighter on it for vehicle units. I still think vehicle-based armies with vehicles in it, because I've run Admech and Orcs and stuff like that. I feel like those all do still kind of give up a little too much for Bring It Down. And because Assassinate still exists, it's like you take you need characters to buff them, and then you get to like 4 characters, and you're giving your opponent right there 4 points a character for 16 points. That looking at, ooh, I can score 20 on Bring It Down and 16 on Assassinate, it's very tempting, and it gets difficult when that's where you're at. Now, granted, not every army is going to be able to do that damage to have that happen, but it's a tough thing to go into knowing that in a tournament in a 5-round GT, you're probably going to run into someone who can. So there's that. Containment I love. Containment I think is great. Defend Stronghold. Defend Stronghold can go. It's 3 points. It's 3 points every time. I think there's another card that could take its place. Honestly, I really do. I think that's one that we've seen it a lot of times. It scores 3 points, and we go, okay, I score some score and defend Stronghold. Anything that scores under 4 points shouldn't be around, just because of what you need to do to get to 40 points to score that maximum. You need at least 8 points a turn. Now, granted, there are some that score 6. Fine. Don't make them score 6. Don't have any that score 6. Have the cap on every single card be 4. So that each card, the maximum you can score on is 4. So if you score a 100-point game, you literally had a perfect game and scored every secondary right to its number. I personally think that's where it should be. And I think things like Bring It Down should be shifted in that way to be that maximum, because I said, maximum of like 4 points, because then it's 8 times 5. So yeah, you're looking at 40 right there. So, 8 times 5, 40. This is why you don't do math while you're recording a video live. 5, 5, 25, 6, 30, 35, 40. Yes, I was right. So, I mean, I know there's a couple of them that are like 5-pointers. It's like, ooh, nice, I got a 5-pointer. I can make up a point. You shouldn't be able to make up points. There should be no making up points. If you don't score it, you don't score it. That's it. So you have to have that perfect game. Now, an argument can be said for the fact that the cards you draw turn 1 might not be easily obtained or be able to even be obtained. Okay, fine. My rebuttal. Turn 1, you pick the 2 secondaries that you draw. This takes out all the shuffle back in secondary stuff, everything like that. On turn 1, you get to pick the first 2 secondaries you start the game with. Make everything 4 points. You have to have a perfect game to get 100. Just saying. Extend battle lines, love it. Again, that can go 2-4. That can go 2 points for rear home, 2 points for whatever the 2-point one is. If you only have 1 unit on the battlefield, okay. So make it 4 points. Establish locus, same thing, 2 and 4. Assassinate. This is going to be a hot take. I think assassinate should go away. I think that this, one of 2 things, either assassinate is gone, or stop making it fixed. Stop making killing your opponent's characters a fixed secondary. There are a lot of armies that can play on very heavy character builds and can utilize characters in the way that this game is set up right now. This limits some lists. And I think this limits also vehicle builds. If this, keep assassinate, that's fine. But take it away from a fixed secondary. That's just, and that's a hot take, that's me. Area denial, fine. It's 5 points, make it 2 and 4. Overwhelming force, it's 3 points per unit you destroy an objective. Cool, make it 3, second one's 4. Secure no man's land, same thing, 2 and 4. Behind enemy lines, so behind enemy lines is one that I'm in a weird place with. We're gonna come back to that. Call the Horde. Let's get something new. I'm sorry, no. I don't like that one. That's me personally. I feel like I shuffle it out more times than I actually play it. So anyways, Sabotage was cool. I like that one. And even though it does in your opponent's time. Storm Hostile, no prisoners. Once again, have it cap at 4. Maybe change that one that if you destroy a unit, you get 2 points. Then you get 1 point for each unit you destroy after that for the maximum of 4. Engage in all fronts, definitely a classic. I would say keep that one around. Cleanse, classic, keep that one around. Now back to behind enemy lines. Behind enemy lines is a classic. But behind enemy lines is one that some armies have a difficult time scoring. Just even based on detachments alone. Like your army may just not be able to do it at all, period. Like there's no situation and there's really no units you can put in to do it And if you do, you're wasting points, you're wasting resources, and your army's not going to function as well. And that's because you have to dedicate so far into it. Yes, we're only so far away from each other. You can move stuff in there. But this unit, you have to get a unit, what is it, wholly within? Yeah, wholly within your opponent's deployment zone. And 2 units for max. I think behind enemy lines, now granted, yes, I did say at the beginning, let's just go, let's shoot all forward. Let's home field objective not matter. We're moving forward. So if we're moving forward, DJ, why would behind enemy lines still be a problem? Because it's too far forward. It's too much that in order to score that one, you have to be pushing your opponent. So if you're having a good game and you guys are fighting back and forth, that one might be really too tough to score. And I like the concept of going over to everything is either 2 points or 4 points. And so for that matter, I think this should also be something that's more in the middle. Right now, I'm looking at, out of the deck, I had 5 cards that I picked that should be switched out of there. And yes, I put Assassinate in the pile. For some, I'll take Assassinate out. So even just with 4 cards that I think switch, Mark for Death, Defend Stronghold, Cull the Horde, and Behind Enemy Lines. Those are my choices. Now, how do we go with it? What direction we go? There's your battle line cards. Those 4 become something that is a secondary that says if you complete this, you score 2 points. If you complete it with a battle line unit, you score 4. And you may then start looking at taking 1 or 2 battle line units where some armies, even in Necrons, you can take a really durable battle line unit and have it do that stuff. Have it just be that unit that's an infantry unit to march on a point. If that's the direction we go, there's your battle line cards. But I feel like those are the 4 that I would say need to come out of the game. Just my opinion. So, all right. Whew. That's about it. Shaking off this rust. Want to get back out here and start talking about stuff. Get back on, start recording more videos, chatting more 40K. Working on a couple of different things. I've said it a bunch of times. Yes, the camera stuff that we changed up, it failed. So now we're trying to go over into a being able to do some live chats. Lane and other people, and just have myself and other people, and just have some good conversations about 40K. And just when we're list building, we're concept building, we're sitting around painting, and the conversations we have, just let everyone all jump in on these and just enjoy some of the conversation. So working on getting that set up. Hopefully have that set up by this summer. I have a laptop that I'm trying to just push it through to make it happen so that I can see what I want to replace and what I want to do, and then we'll go from there. But yeah, otherwise, let me know in the comment section what's some stuff that's interesting you. What's stuff that you'd be like, man, I would love to see a video on ... And then, you know, Lane and I will look into producing it. I mean, this table is built by this channel is built by everyone out there and the conversations we have and what we talk about. And there's a lot of stuff in 40K that we may not, you know, I want to get some newer players over here to start working with them so that some of the concepts that we don't think about and don't talk about anymore are stuff that maybe some people want to talk about and want to hear about it. So let me know in the comments section. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.